Our viewers, I'm sorry we waiting for Honorable Mabeta. I'm supposed to interview Honorable Mabeta today, but he's running a bit late. He was attending another meeting somewhere in Lusaka. So please start sharing this program. We're going to discuss a lot of important issues today, including the shortages of drugs, you know, um, in hospitals in Zambia, the issues of employing new medical staff. As you are aware that there was a letter that was leaked in the press where the director of HR and Minister of Health was implicated, started employing new staff before the government could start. And also there's an audio going around by Minister of Health talking to the same people and also saying the government hasn't started employing the medical staff. So we're going to talk about a lot of other issues, also including the latest this afternoon. DEC has just arrested Honorable Joseph Malanji, the Kwacha constituency MP. Um, uh, the allegations that he laundered about 10 million Kwacha and $790,000. So we've got a lot of issues to talk about today. Just be patient with us. I'm still waiting for Honorable Mabeta to come. As soon as Honorable Mabeta comes, we'll start the program. We are sorry. My apologies once again. I'll continue playing the music while I'm waiting for Honorable Mabeta. Thank you so much. Honorable Pombo, can we see your picture, please? Your video. Oscar Pombo, good afternoon.
Just a second, please. Let me just move myself. Just a second. I'll show you my video. Just a second.
Yeah, we can just have a discussion while we are waiting for Honorable Mabeta to come in.
Yes, just a minute.
No problem. That's wonderful.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Oscar Pombo.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Patrick. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. Yeah, our viewers, today we've got a special program with Honorable Mabeta. You all aware that on Wednesday we do have our resident MP, but he went to attend a meeting somewhere in Lusaka and he got stuck. So he's trying to get out of the traffic and get into Parliament Motel so that we can start this program. I really apologize for that delay, but the program is going to take place. But in the meantime, I've got one of Bakwetu family members based in the UK. By the way, my name is Patrick Chilufya. I'm one of the Bakwetu TV family members, and I'm based in the UK, Sussex. And we've got Oscar Pombo. Oscar Pombo, introduce yourself, please, where you come from and who you are.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Patrick. Thank you very much, and good evening, all the viewers. It's always my pleasure to be part of this TV Bakwetu. What a wonderful platform, and for the service that it renders to the Zambian people, and not only to the Zambian people, but to most of our friends and sympathizers in Africa and worldwide. I am Don Oscar. I am residing in Italy now, and I'm one of the privileged people really to have had the occasion to welcome the president when he came to visit Italy, Mr. Patrick Chilufya.
Oh, that's fantastic. So
Yes,
did you speak to the president? Did you talk to him?
yes, we had the possibility, Mr. Patrick. We had the possibility. I was one of the few people. We are granted that possibility to forward to our president probably the needs of the Zambians also from here in Italy.
Oh, that's fantastic. That was a great opportunity. Now, Mampombo,
Exactly.
while we are waiting for our honorable MP to come, one of the things we are going to talk about is we always talk about it here, corruption. And you know
Yes,
that TV Bakwetu, one of the reasons why they fought the previous government was corruption, because we knew that with corruption, our country was not going to go anywhere. You know, what
definitely.
happened in the last government, everything was tainted with corruption. Even to construct a small bridge or even a small toll gate, everything was corruption. Now, today, um, we're going to talk about this when Mabeta comes. He's going to give us his own opinion. But this is
Yeah.
just to talk about, this is just our program while we are, waiting for him. Take
Yes.
through anti-money laundering unit has arrested, finally, has arrested Kwacha constituency member of parliament, Mr. Joseph Malanji, age 56, for money laundering activities involving 10 million kwacha and $796,000. Apparently, um, Mr. Malanji, yes, he was a businessman. He was running a hotel called Buchi Hotel in Kitwe, which he bought on loan. But according to the statement from Dick, he actually used money obtained through dubious means
Dubious means.
to go and settle the loan for that hotel. So the hotel was a proper business.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then he used corrupt money to it's laundering. It's to go and clean it into the hotel through the hotel. And part of that $770,000, obviously, it must have been obtained somewhere corruptly. It's part of the charges. What do you think about this? And why should we continue fighting? Because there are some people, Bambombo, who are saying we've won the elections, we supported UPND, and we should now leave PF to go. We need to have dialogue. We need to let them go and forget about the past, or else we're gonna be called hypocrites. What do you think about that?
Thank you very much, Mr. Patrick. On this issue, my opinion is I think it has been a wrong thing, a wrong decision for the Zambians, and not only for the Zambians, for most of our African countries to just bury cases which have not yet been settled, and you just stop talking about them. Mr. Patrick and the viewers and all the viewers, I am one of the privileged people who have had the possibility to visit Israel, Palestine as a territory, and one thing that really encouraged me of those people, the Israelites, is they are keen on keeping the memory, Mr. Patrick. This nation does not want to forget. You can imagine, Mr. Patrick, we as Zambians, and not only in Zambia, but most of the African nations, we suffered colonialism, we suffered slave trade, but we have not yet managed to put on world map the memorial for slave trade, as our brothers and sisters in Israel who have managed to put their memorial of uh, um, um, the Auschwitz. Auschwitz is quite an international memorial now. We remember the killing of the 6 million Jews in those Hitler times, which was very terrible. But this is history. Now, Mr. Patrick, if we can remember, the world can do yearly recognition of the killing of the innocent people, the innocent Jews, just because they were Jews. And this has become an international memorial annual celebration worldwide. We, as sympathizers of UPND, and we fought very hard to change the government. We fought, we are not ashamed to say this. We really came out and we fought very hard to support the change of the government, is because we don't want to forget anymore, any longer. It is wrong to forget. Mr. Patrick, when I came in Italy, my professors were telling me one thing, which I learned a lot. Go back to your home. Never forget where you came from. You came from Zambia? And I say, yes, I am a Zambian. And they told me, Oscar, it is fundamental for you not to forget where you came from. And even now, Mr. Patrick, I talk about my town, Ndeke in Kitwe. I talk about my Copperbelt region. I talk about my compounds in the Copperbelt in Kitwe. And I am proud of that. And there is nothing wrong in talking about history. That is why we are not going to get scandalized and ashamed to talk about the history of the governance of our nation, our beloved nation, Zambia. Unfortunately, probably our friends in the PF, they are a bit uncomfortable with when we talk about the past regime, but it is fundamental. Only if we can talk about the mistakes that were made in the past can we have a bright future for Zambia in the future, in the coming years. Mr. Patrick, I submit.
So that was fantastic, and and I agree with you. We don't forget where we come from. Like myself, I live in the UK. I'm a permanent resident. I've got an opportunity to become a citizen, but I've decided not to. I want to be proudly Zambian, and as a permanent resident, I can live here for as long as I want. And but one thing is, we cannot move forward if we don't deal with the past.
Yes,
Look at South Africa. The first thing they did was reconciliation commission,
exactly.
because they realized that there's no way they were going to move forward if they don't talk about reconciliation. And then reconciliation also comes with restitution.
Exactly.
And South Africa, they did a lot of restitution. Most of the land was taken by the government, though the farmers were compensated, different from Zimbabwe, from what Zimbabwe did. And not only that, they also passed some laws in which they required all companies, foreign companies in South Africa, to give at least 25% ownership to the South Africans. They did
You
that.
are you are
And and,
correct. You
and,
are
and, and,
correct.
and not only that, there was an affirmative action in which they all the companies should start employing um, black people, or all those people who were disadvantaged, including white women.
Exactly.
And also they gave these international companies. I worked for BP. They gave them about 5 years in which to groom somebody, and in that 5 years, they should be a South African CEO, which happened. By the time I came to the UK, there was a CEO, a South African guy I worked with, who became the first black CEO of BP. When I was leaving, the chairman of BP also was a black person, BP South Africa. So this is how South Africa has moved. They haven't forgotten. You can't just say, let's forget about what happened in the past.
No, it is a mistake. It's a mistake, and you cannot even dream, Mr. Patrick, you cannot dream to go forward if you forget where you came from. Whether
So
it is a whether it is a negative, it's a bad history or not, but you can never forget.
you're right, Wampombo. And this is where we've got a problem. Abanensu, they are not remorseful. They think whatever they did was good. And yet it was there. Everybody saw it. It was bad. The corruption was there. Everything was, but they don't want to accept. Instead, they are saying they are being victimized, or they are treated like that because they come from the north and the east. And also they are saying let's dialogue. But to them, dialogue is let's forget about the past. And then
It's wrong.
if we don't forget about the past, they call us hypocrites.
No, it's
You
wrong.
know,
It's wrong. It's wrong, and we are going to stand firm. We don't hate any Zambian. I think we don't hate any Zambian. I don't hate any Zambian. I have my friends. I have my nephew, Mr. Patrick. Just to tell you, I have my nephew from Ndola. He is from the PF. He's a PF sympathizer, and he's a PF member. I have my nephew. We chat, we discuss, we confer, and I've been telling him of the serious blunders that has been made by the previous government. What we are doing when we denounce the mistakes made by the previous government, we are not saying we hate our friends on the other side. We don't hate them. Also, because I don't know why they have tried to convince the Zambians as if in Zambia there are only two parties, UPND and PF. Mr. Patrick, in Zambia there are many parties. And if somehow they convince our young people, our people in the homelands, in Wapula, where I come from, where my parents came from, if they convince them that the fight is only between the UPND and the Patriotic Front, it's also a mistake, because our nation is a multi-party system. There are many political parties in Zambia. If UPND is okay, kudos to UPND. If PF is doing bad, we will look to other parties. The country has to go forward. Just as the UPND, they say, forward. Our nation has to go forward. Mr. Patrick, I just wanted to confirm what you said about the South Africa, because I had also an opportunity for my work and for my interest. I worked in England. I was in Liverpool from the year 2001 to 2004. And I worked from Liverpool, and I worked in London as well. And I went as well. I was working through between London and South Africa. In South Africa, we are based in Cape Town. So in Cape Town, the story you are talking about, Mr. Patrick, I heard from the South African the way they suffered. When we went to Cape Town, things are fantastic. Shops, businesses. But I had an opportunity, Mr. Patrick, just like I love. That's my personality. I want to go and listen to the less privileged. So I went to those shanty places in the southern part of Africa, and three of them where I visited, Mr. Patrick, is Witness. No. It's Delft. I don't know whether you
okay.
remember.
Yes, I know Dev.
Delft,
Did you go to Guguletu?
Guguletu. Yes, I went.
Langa? Langa?
Langa. Fantastic, man. I went to
Yeah.
Langa, Guguletu, Delft. And those Delft especially, it touched me, this place, because they were all sand around. And the
Yes.
people were telling me, do you know what they did? They took our land from the Cape Town, the place where they're calling it Kaptipunt in Afrikaans. They took our land from that place and they moved us.
Kapstad.
Yeah, Kapstad. Yes, exactly. And they pushed us here in Delft, where there was a sandy place. So for the Zambians, listen, Africa suffered. Africa suffered. South Africa suffered just as Zambia has suffered. But South Africa, something beautiful about these people, they are not ashamed in going back and talking to the people who are coming from abroad to say, we suffered, we lost our land, and we were displaced, taken to a sandy land where they could not grow tomatoes, Mr. Patrick. They could not grow tomatoes because everything was sandy. But in compensation to this injustice, the South African government tried to build some decent homes in Delft and in Pumalanga and in all those areas. They built some decent homes as a sign of reconciliation, I submit.
Thank you so much, Oscar, on that. And our viewers, while we're still waiting for Honorable Mabeta, we've been joined by another TV Bakwetu family member, Mrs. Mwelwa Mushibwe Tanisha. Yeah, welcome, Mwelwa.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Patrick.
And Mwelwa, before you go, we waiting for Mabeta, but one of the things we started talking about was corruption. You know, we like talk about corruption, not because we like it, we hate it. Because this country cannot move forward without dealing with the corruption of the past and of the present and of the future. So today, I don't know whether you've heard this afternoon, finally, Mr. Bonaza, known as Joseph Malanji,
Mr. Helicopter
has finally been arrested, and assets worth about 10 million, which is Buchi Hotel, and this involves money laundering activity involving 10 million kwacha and $790,000. Apparently, Mrs. Malanji, as he said, he was doing business. Yes, he was doing business. He bought a hotel called Buchi Hotel, and on credit, on Nkongole. And then somewhere, when he was in government, laundered, got some money dubiously somewhere, and paid off that loan, 10 million. So in essence, what he was doing is was laundering the money into a legitimate business, so that it looks like he was running a business and he bought those helicopters from a business he was running, and yet the money he used to pay for that hotel was obtained dubiously. So what's your comment on that?
I think it's becoming a lot evident that there was a lot more going on than we were even probably aware of. And I think the person that I'm trying to remember, is it Mr. Lungu, the one that was the administrator?
The liquidator.
Yeah, the one who just resigned.
Liquidator.
Yes, so his style,
Mr. Lungu, yes. That's
so his style was getting the money from the mines, putting into his account. It gets some commission, then he puts it back, and I can imagine this was going on a large scale. And somebody just was informing me to say that this was typically introduced by SATA some years back. And he was doing it legally within the government. And that's how apparently he managed to build the Mez flats along Kabwata and all sorts of things. Unfortunately, it's a style that has been taken on by the ministers, and now they're using it dubiously, and they're trying to clean their money and stuff like that. But I think we've been taken for a ride. I'm hopeful that now that they're being arrested and it's coming to light, that people begin to actually open their eyes. Because I have this thought that a lot of people are still supporting the PF, which just baffles me. And like you were discussing, saying like, look, they think it's in the past. It's not in the past. It's still affecting us today. We don't have medication in the hospitals, not because we want medications in the hospitals. But if things were not right at the back, we're being affected now. And especially for Mr. Malanji, that one it baffles me how he got into government, how he didn't have the grades, and he still says things like, you didn't ask me for the grades. And I'm thinking, but isn't this common knowledge that if you're getting into government, you should have had the grades, you should have been able to declare things. And I think in the last couple of days, I don't know if you've seen where people are laughing at it must be Mr. Kawana, when he says every minister filed in their, declared their assets. Where did the PF declare their assets? I want to know and see what they had, because then we can compare. And some of these things, I don't even think SEC will even have to investigate so much, or even look at the nitty-gritty. We will know exactly who did something funky just by seeing what they had and what they had at the end of the 7 years. 10 million in 7 years. What miracle business, miraculous business was booming in that time, that a lot of us did not get the 10 million, but he was able to get the 10 million and the helicopter. There's a lot of suspicious things that they were doing. And it's just unfortunate that a lot of our former ministers and that clique think it's a joke, and they can joke about it and they can tell us. And for me, I just look at them as, when you look at the conductor, the way the conductors behave. Can you tell a conductor that you're wrong? You can never convince conductor that you're wrong. It's the same thing with them. We just had thugs and conductors in government. And that's why when you look at them, you're thinking, God, thank you very much for saving us. But unfortunately, I feel like that's what we had. We just had Fika Ponya in government, and they just went right doing what they felt they could do and get what they... And that's why they're not even apologetic about it. When we compare them to South Africa, and that you can even have a reconciliation session. I mean, if I sat down with Chibalilo Malenda, what dialogue would I have with him? A sensible dialogue that he could say, look, I'm wrong, and this is the money that I took. This caliber of people were not statesmen or academicians, or these were just thugs. And maybe the moment we begin to looking at them as thugs, to be a lot easier for us, I think, to even swallow what they did. Because at the moment we're all getting surprised because we think they were statesmen or these great people, but in truth they were just thugs.
And then Mamuelwa, should we dialogue with these people and forget about what happened in the past? Or if we don't, we be called hypocrites.
Well, I have that that comedian who says Tidwale, if they call me a hypocrite, I think Tidwale, that is going to happen. But I'm of the thought that these are not people you can dialogue with. There's a caliber of a person you can sit down and say, let me dialogue with this person. And people who want to dialogue are of the idea that they can sit down and we can discuss issues. But these are not people that we can even discuss issues. I mean, someone begins to sing a song and says Mwanina Pangombe, and you're thinking, and this is the caliber of person I should go and dialogue with. Who is this, Coca? And I don't think there's room for dialogue. It's the same thing as saying let's dialogue with a murderer or a serial killer, because I see them as serial killers. Anybody that's being born today is being born with a debt on their head. It's equivalent of being killed before you're even born, So I think that I wouldn't, personally, I would just say I wouldn't want to dialogue with them. If they were maybe remorseful, there was maybe even some people bringing back their wealth, and saying, look, I made a mistake, or yes, because I was in a position of power, I got swayed and I was involved in this corruption, so here's the money. We would understand. But none of them are remorseful. In fact, they're very rude and were still being insulted as electorate. Because I mean, when they sing that song, I look at that song, I think too much. So I'm thinking, in what way were you saying to Nine Pangombe? Because in fact, if, let's say, for example, I know in villages, let's say I want to cross the river and it's full, I can just hang on to that tail of the cow and I will cross. But if I'm in a boat and it capsizes, I'm done for. That's the other thing. I look at them and I'm saying, these are dull people that I don't think even dialogue would. There's nothing that you dialogue with. It's like I'm dialoguing with a murderer or a criminal.
Now, but in terms of wealth or prestige, who is better? Uninine mubwato no unine pangombe. Who is much better?
When we look at it from the wealth, I don't even want to go that far, because in my mind, I just thought, in fact, I'll tell you honestly, I thought it was a sexual connotation. It was a sexual slur. Because when I say
it's
where, there's nowhere
tribalistic.
There's no way I understand anyone, any tribe or any race gets on top of a cow. A cow is not a beast of burden.
No.
So when I saw that, I'm just thinking, guys, and I know cows are of worth. What a bot is, what is a bot? Or what is a canoe, in fact?
A canoe.
When you look at, yes. But the thing is, I'm looking at them and just looking at the downness of that concept.
Just imagine, I like psychology myself. I like studying psychology. I was, I find it very hard to listen to the Patriotic Front. If you remember, Patrick, these people, they said they have asked forgiveness from the Zambians because of their wrongdoings, that they plundered their resources, that they encouraged cadreism, that they have never done anything about the gassing of the Zambian citizens, that they have never done anything about what happened in the burning of the markets, that they have never done anything of all the scandals that has happened for the past 11 years. Now, sometimes someone will say, no, president, the former president asked, he was sorry, and then there is I don't want to mention names, but I'll just be generic here. They said they were sorry on these items. Now, here is my logic and my psychological reflection. When you say you are sorry, is there any logic, Mr. Patrick, to come back and tell the Zambians who you said you were sorry, and you tell them, you are stupid. We told you that go into a boat, kwele ni pe boti, and you chose to kukwela pangombe. Now, did you ask forgiveness from the Zambians because you plundered the resources? You did horrible things. Is it true you asked sorry to the Zambians? If you did, can somebody help me? Well, Patrick, help me understand. How can you come back and say you are stupid because we told you not to board on a pangombe? Can somebody help me to understand the logic in the Patriotic Front members? Thank you.
Bampombo, these are people who are beyond redemption. As Bamwelwa said, Liba Pompwe, Bakelenka, how do you know that Kabola and Wamwi Katamunganda Muyobe, that staunch Kabolala, Wamwi Katalibe Chintumunganda, Tasakan, Atish Leiba. Nashpanga fe mistake na sa ingila Munganda Mien. But said Wachpanga mistake, but how did you get in? Because the house was locked. So these are the people we are dealing with. We are dealing with staunch criminals, hardcore criminals who have no remorse, because Malungu, before he retired, whatever retirement, he said is sorry for what they did, but he never said in detail what are those things they did wrong. But then they're saying we are rebranding PF. But there are some people within PF. I would give you an example of Honorable Christopher Kangombe, young guy, new MP in Parliament. Christopher Kangombe now is a member of the Central Committee of PF. Christopher Kangombe made a statement last week that there's no branding of PF if we don't go to the Zambians and tell them and apologize to them for the wrong things we did. So this is a young man just an MP for the first time. Why can't the other leadership like Baluvinda do the same thing? Because these guys, there's no PF is not gonna be forgiven until there is reconciliation. Not only reconciliation, restitution.
Mm.
Yeah.
These
Bamwelwa, before you come in,
empire.
31 vehicles. You know, Bamwelwa, I know this is on TV and this is factual, but I'm not going to mention the name. But Abale Tamba, some of them knows this. There was a guy in Lusaka, a very guy well connected to the PF. He was flashing cars like hell, coming with all the Porsche cars. He even opened a Porsche showroom near
The
mass
East
media
Park area.
complex. East Park, yeah, Porsche. These cars were coming into Zambia without being cleared, so that's why he could bring them expensive cars. Yeah, well-known guy. He's a friend on Facebook. I've known him. I've met him physically. We've had a drink together because somebody in PF who is a friend introduced me to him. And this guy was bringing Porsche cars, and I was wondering, where does he get the money? It doesn't work. Bamwelwa, the day UPND was announced winner, that Sunday, Monday, there was no car in that showroom. And those cars have disappeared. Over to you, Bamwelwa, about the 31 cars. Can you say something? And you must know about the ISPAC more dealer guy. But we're not mentioning names here.
Yes. It's very funny because when you look at the scramble just after the elections, I don't know if you remember, there was even some oil tankers dumped at the airport. I think that must have been Copperbelt. I'm trying to remember exactly whether it was Copperbelt or the Lusaka airport. But these people just dumped everything. It automatically tells you this was a corrupt dealing or practice. And now they're scared, which is what has happened to a lot of our political big guys. If you notice, they've all just gone silent, and you're asking yourself, ngaba nishwa ile silent, ngaba, why are they silent? And a lot of these will be the owners of these properties. And we know that a lot of the people in the PF in those days were practicing or part of so many syndicates, and the Mukula thing is one thing, the cars is another, because we used to see all these cars come in, and there were showrooms left, right, and center. We had houses that were unaccounted for a couple of years. Nobody knew who the owner of the house is. So the possibility of this being genuine, which I've seen a lot of the PF supporters on the social media want to paint it like it's nothing. 31 houses, and they say the same thing with the houses. Now they're saying the same thing with the cars, and they're constantly trying to belittle these issues. But this is just the unearthing of bigger things. I'm thinking there'll be more cars that we're going to be finding. Equally, for example, where are the cars that Zesco had? I hear there's so many cars that were bought pre-election. Those cadres, I saw so many cars. We were seeing the cadres going around everywhere with cars which were labeled, whether it was PF, whether it was, and some of them were even getting free fuel from the stations. As long as you had your PF stickers on the cars, they were just passing through service stations and getting free. So all these things are going to just begin to become unearthed. And I'm happy that I know we are very, I know personally, I'm very impatient about it. I'm like, the quicker we get these people out of the way, the better. But I think this needs to be done quite systematically, and as slow at the pace that it is, we just have to appreciate it. Because I think on the other hand, this is something probably that's not happened in years back. They would catch one or two, but this is quite on a larger scale. So maybe I'm a little also equally impatient and patient, and equally happy with the SEC and these other investigative wings that we are unearthing these things, like the cars and the
all that thought. Why you sitting there? You've heard about Lungu's son also being implicated in the vehicles.
Yeah.
So it's really, really sad. But Bakwetu family, we've been joined by our viewers. We've been joined by another Bakwetu family member, Dr. Barbara Chanda. Dr. Barbara Chanda, welcome to this program. This program is supposed to be I was supposed to interview Honorable Mabeta, but he was attending a meeting somewhere in Lusaka, and apparently his car is in between so many other cars, and he can't come out of there. So hopefully, if he comes, well and good. But we're going to continue with our program. When he comes, he will join us. Dr. Barbara, welcome to Bakwetu TV this evening.
Thank you very much, Patrick, and good evening, everybody. I've been away for a while. I've been on Lent. I'm not even supposed to say that because my priest was telling me that keep it to yourself. But every time I keep telling people I'm on Lent.
Barbara, no.
Now, Barbara, we've been talking about. We were waiting for Mabeta to come, but it looks like it's taking time. It says, let's continue with our Chinto and Toby. So the topic we're talking about today is the arrest of Mr. Bonanza.
Yeah.
You've heard about it.
Yeah, it's all over.
Money laundering involving 10 million. And we also talked about the 31 cars that have been forfeited, that have been seized by the anti-corruption or DEC. Yeah, what's the comment on that? And it's like Mwelwa said, we still just uncovering things every day, houses, cars, Lungu's children involved, Lungu's wife involved, Maluminda taking a council property, and then Barbara, is there dialogue with these criminals? Is there reconciliation without restitution? Over to you, Barbara.
Thank you, Patrick. The question is, the last government was saying extremely corrupt is an understatement. They really took everything upon themselves as theirs. They had no rule of law. They had no respect for government property and government money. That's why we have to be really radical. My opinion is we need to be radical with the way we're dealing with the past corruption. We have to have a precedence. The reason being, Patrick, we're a very poor country to start with. Whatever this money flowing around, it belongs to very few people. If we are not radical, that money will just be circling around the same people investigating. Before you know it, you have these massive announcements without any follow-up. Personally, I would like it to, I would like the UPND government to be radical with corruption. Without being radical, we'll be just going around in circles. We'll just be, talk lala and Bakwetu, what happened? Oh, there's no medication in the Ministry of Health. Oh, blah, blah, blah. And then the cycle goes on. For it to change, we really have to be radical. If people have stolen that kind of money, we have to be radical, because my worry, Patrick and everybody else on the panel, is when Bali said we need to be methodical, a lot of people have to investigation. It takes a bit, we've been there for centuries. It can't be like that. It has to be immediate. Or at least they give us the true stories without, if we don't have the full meat to the bone of the story, then the same criminals start posting all over Facebook. They're against us, they're just following us, and etc. etc. That's why we have to be really radical. Reconciliation, because that's money that's costing people's lives. That corruption has cost people's lives. It's so nice to say, people, when people make money, they'll look like they're rich, but at that richness, it's costing somebody else's life. I submit, Patrick, I've reduced my talk time. Yeah, muted. But Patrick, you're muted.
You're 100% spot on, Barbara, and I can see some some viewers are saying, "But Barbara, we missed you. Where have you been? Good to see you." So good to see you, Barbara. Yeah, our viewers, we've now been joined by Honorable Mabeta, who I was supposed to interview today, and we're going to continue with the program. Our Bakwetu family members, you can stay here, and you can ask Honorable Mabeta questions. What we're going to do now is we're going to look at the most important topics for tonight, and then after every topic, we'll ask you, Bakwetu family, if you've got any question for Honorable Mabeta. I think the elephant in the room today is Ministry of Health. One, the shortage of drugs, which everybody knows, the whole country, the shortage of drugs. But Barbara, you know what I'm talking about. I've got a relative who is in hospital at UTH. UTH does not have an essential drug, a very important drug, which helps a premature baby to develop the lungs so that they start breathing properly on their own instead of using ventilators. This is a very essential medication. It's not, and this medication is not medication you can find at any pharmacy. It's an ICU prenatal medication. So it's unlikely that you're gonna find it on any pharmacy, and we proved it. We couldn't find it anywhere in Zambia. We looked at pharmacies all over South Africa, but we finally found it at one hospital pharmacy in Cape Town. This drug cost 3,000 rands. How many Zambians can afford it who are poor? And we have to send it by DHL. It will cost another 1,000 rand. So this drug will cost about 4,000 rand by the time it lands at University Teaching Hospital, probably tomorrow or Friday. You know, and Honorable Mabeta, welcome to TV Bakwetu this evening.
Good evening, Timba Chilufya. I'm so sorry for joining you late. I was held up with some other commitments.
Thank you, Honorable Mabeta. We do understand you always come here whenever we need you, and we do understand that something happened and you're forgiven. But Honorable Mabeta, before we go into the Minister of Health issues, I'm just going to read a statement from Honorable Kasanda, who is our information minister, on the shortage of drugs at Ministry of Health or at hospitals, just as a preamble to what we're going to talk about. Our viewers and Bakwetu family members, this is a statement. I'm going to read it the way it came. This is by Patricia Malley at Phoenix News. Government has denied diverting any funds meant for the purchase of medical and health drugs to fund free education, as alleged in some sections of the media. The chief government spokesperson, Shushika Sanda, says government is taken aback by the story in which Patriotic Front member and former Ron MP, a member of parliament, Shimbakambwili, is quoted as saying the reason behind current drug shortages is because the government has used the money meant to buy the drugs to finance free education. Mrs. Kasanda has described this allegation as unfounded and a sheer figment of Mr. Kambwili's imagination, saying government has adequately funded hospitals since taking office in August last year. She has explained that government has increased funding to the hospitals from 1.4 billion to that the PF used to allocate to hospitals to 3.8 billion, adding that in December 2021 alone, the government tripled the monthly allocation to the hospitals from 50,000 to 100,000 a month. Mrs. Kasanda states that the government is aware that drug levels are not sitting at ideal 80% level, but also not less than 50%. She adds that delay in the purchase of drugs was caused by litigation matters made the new Zambia Medicines and Medical Supplies Agency, which is ZAMSA, board re-advertised the tender, a process she says is unavoidable, and has since assured members of the public that government is working to normalize the situation. Our viewers, Honorable Mabeta and Bakwetu family, that was a statement from our minister, Honorable Mabeta. Despite the government pumping more money than than what PF pumped in, more than double, we still have shortages of drugs. Some of them essential drugs, like the one I just mentioned. You know, um, when I just after I introduced you. What is your comment? Where is the problem? In your own, not as a government spokesman, but your own opinion.
Oh yeah, thank you for clarifying that, because when I'm appearing here firstly as a Zambian, number two as a representative of the people of Kankoyo, not as a spokesperson for UPND. Obviously, who's a member of the UPND. So basically, from the statement, I've picked two things. There's been an increase in the monthly allocation to the hospitals, as well as annual allocation. Okay. So the increase from 1.4 billion to 3.4 billion, obviously this is the annual allocation, which means it's going to happen over a period of time. Then the allocation to the hospitals, the grant, the monthly grant from 50,000 to 100, I think the 100 came in January. Then much have been advised. I heard the minister whispering to say it might even go to 150, that which will make it a triple amount. Basically, this 150 obvious should be there for the hospitals to meet their daily operations, of course, and also to meet where the government is still having challenges in delivering the medication. That means that the whole amount should go towards their operational costs. This is stationary, buying of cleaning material, obvious, buying of paying of labor, casual workers working for the hospitals and others. So as hospitals, obviously, need to take initiatives and look at the challenges, which factors, which areas could be of urgence, Although there is also a balance, hospitals definitely need to be clean. Hospitals need to be worked on small repairs and improvements on the hospitals. But at the moment, the biggest challenge you're having is the shortage of drugs. So if you used to work on the 50,000 at the hospital and you receive an extra 50,000 that month, maybe allocate 30,000 towards the procurement of emergency medication, and the other 20,000 is what to add on an operation cost. But obviously, as we always say, we have a problem with the system. We have the problem with the people who are working with the government. They will do as much as possible to ensure that that which is frustrating the people is affected the most. So I wouldn't mind, I wouldn't be surprised to say at the hospital, the management would want to ensure that drugs keep on getting in. Drugs, the area of drugs is affected, while the government is still procuring more drugs. And although the government is still buying more drugs to increase the levels from the 50s, 60, 80, or even 100%, they won't use that initiative because they will say this money is meant for operational costs and they won't use the drugs. So what we are lacking in Zambia at the moment, Chilufya, we don't have Zambians who are patriotic. We don't have Zambians who love what they do. We don't have Zambians who feel Zambia is theirs. They feel by bringing down the UPND, they are going to improve themselves. There's something which always my wife told me, my wife always mentioned to me to say, you never get taller by chopping the head of your friends. We'll never develop this country by capitalizing on the failures of UPND. When UPND fails, PF failed to manage the country. Is this only PF? UPND members are suffering. No, even PF today are suffering. In fact, ngani PF bachirufya mwashango aliberera okulya mukufo olwasamba okwira mukuumo kamala kwati nawe uchula sana kuchira ule walira mukuumo na kale na kale. So ubuchushi tulepitamu na mbolo bamboku bumfa. That's why they've been crying the loudest. So any failure by a Zambian any working deliberate by a Zambian to frustrate the UPND, it's not the UPND they're punishing themselves too. They may not be themselves, but their children, their spouses, and their families. Because when there's an essential drug, which is Chilufya, which is missing, and your relative is sick, is that drug going to be available? Or even the same people working in these same institutions, when they fall sick, there's an emergency and they need a drug, an essential drug, which is needed for them to overcome a challenge. It's going to hammer them also. So failure doesn't choose who suffers the consequences. The government has tried in the short term. In the short term, while we are still trying to clean up the system of supply chain of the medicines, they have increased the disposable income of the hospitals from 50,000 to 100, even maybe 250. Why can't the hospitals use the initiative to spend money where it matters the most?
Well, thank you so much on that, Mabeta. But people in so many sections are saying, if the government has pumped in a lot of money into Ministry of Health, which is ZAMSA, and yet there are still problems, shortage of drugs. So people are saying, which means at the end of the day, the person to blame is the Minister of Health, whether the problem is at ZAMSA or where, because we've got Vampombo here. I'm gonna bring him here and just clarify something. We had a program with Vamunsha, and we talked about the issue of shortage of drugs, not just drugs, essential medication, like the one I mentioned earlier on. And Vampombo says, if there's a crisis like that, and there's a problem at ZAMSA, why can't they just go and buy medication from Amazon? I know he was joking, but he meant something very, what he was trying to say is, when there is serious crisis like this, there should be a short-term solution. Because we know that, Mabeta, that there are still the cartels there who are trying to get cheaper medication from India, which is not even properly controlled, no quality control, and they come and sell it at exorbitant high prices. At the end of the day, stealing from the Zambian people. Somebody was saying, there are so many pharmaceutical companies in South Africa, just nearby. Why can't we go there and solve, buy medication from there while we are trying to solve the problems at ZAMSA? Then two, the long-term solution. Why can't we, South Africa, not because ZAMLA, I don't think ZAMLA will be able to go and control drugs manufactured in India. But in South Africa, there's control of medication everywhere where you go. So why can't we invite South African companies? There are hundreds and hundreds of pharmaceutical companies in South Africa. Come and invest in Zambia and start supplying the medication to the government. And in that case, ZAMLA will be able to check the quality control of that medication. What's your take on that, Mabeta?
Yes, obviously, in any strategic plan, there is a short-term, medium-term, and long-term, okay? So the short-term plan which the government has done is to increase the disposable income for the hospitals. The government has increased deliberately from 50 to 100,000 in December to January, and March is likely to be 150,000 per hospital. So why should the hospitals not use the initiative to balance some of the extra money they have received to punch in, to move in and help, answer start closing the gap of the medication, which in huge shortages. Then number two, the medium term obvious is the procurement of the drugs. Obviously, we know what happened. But firstly, there was been this buying of medication on credit. The government was buying medication, that paying for it until the bill went up to 2.4 billion. So now that there's some money released, 650 million, there's a gold rush for the same tender. to supply the medication because they're sure to say when the supply and the delivery are going to be paid. So obviously, those who used to supply the medications on credit, they're looking at an opportunity where they're going to supply and being paid. Again, the government obviously is trying to screen. They're trying to screen and vent and try to clean out those suppliers who are supplying fake drugs, but don't have fake drugs being supplied. We don't have to with the drugs which have been supplied have a shorter shelf life, hence they end up expiring. So Zamsa have been trying to clean out the system so that the adverts, they get the right. So the adverts came in November, they were cancelled. Another one was released in January. So they're in the process of procuring. Some medication obviously have been received. From the ministerial statement I got, the drugs to do with Panadol, the one for malaria is Kwacha. Some of the drugs are in the country, they're being distributed. I mean, in hospitals now. Only that is they're not at 80%, you're still operating at 50%. So in the medium term, that's where we are now moving slowly as a government. So maybe the plea is for the hospital managers, the hospital administrators, please allocate some of the extra money I've received from your government towards the procurement of medication so that we start solving the problem stage by stage. But as we move into the medium term, I'm sure we're going to see a lot of stabilities. However, there's always this challenge of civil servants working so hard to bring down the government. It's not only the Minister of Health, Chilufya. It's everywhere, We are with information, you can see how much information is leaking. Before the speaker passes the judgment, the judgment is leaked 2 days before. There's so much happening which is showing an indication to say this information is being, there's a civil service working against the government. How is information leaking so fast? What is happening? So it's a clear indication to say we have got a civil servant which is working against the government. So the issue of putting up the system will not come out clearly without dealing with this biggest challenge we're having now of civil servants working against the government. Because honestly, if you receive an extra income at the hospital, why can't I allocate some funds toward the needs area so that as the government is still sorting out the short term, you start solving their short term and the medium term. The government is going to attend in the medium term before going to the long term manufacturing of the drugs. The hospital administrator can allocate the extra money they have received towards the procurement of the drugs. But obviously, everybody knows to say shortage of drugs was one of the key issues the PF government was voted out. So those who are working against the government, they will ensure that that area remains a contentious issue in our day-to-day lives.
That's fantastic, Honorable Mabeta. While we're still on Minister of Finance, Minister of Health, and procurement of drugs, Mabeta, I lived in South Africa for 10 years, 6 years in Johannesburg, and 4 years in Cape Town. And in that period, I came across so many Zambians, doctors like my Dr. Barbara, and pharmacists and chemical engineers. Mabeta, you won't believe it. Some of the biggest pharmaceutical companies are run by Zambians, engineers, chemical engineers, from Johannesburg up to Western Cape. So, Mabeta, and I spoke to one of them. He told me that he tried so many times with other Zambians experts in Cape Town, chemical engineers trained at University of Zambia, some trained in the UK with the PF government. They wanted to set up a pharmaceutical company that would supply almost every medication, especially antibiotics, malaria medication, paracetamol or Panadol. The PF government didn't want to do that because they want to get cheaper medication from India, poor quality control, and come and sell it at a very high price because they can't get it from South Africa because it's not easy to bribe from the pharmaceutical companies in South Africa. They can easily bribe in India. So, Mabeta, with all those Zambians long term, and this guy told me to set up a proper pharmaceutical company in Lusaka or anywhere in Zambia that can produce all these antibiotics and everything. It will only cost about $20 million. Why can't we invite Zambians with the support of the government and set up a pharmaceutical company in Zambia and cast the cost, and this company will employ Zambians, will pay tax. Over to you, Mabeta.
Well, that's a brilliant suggestion, and it's something which is worth looking at. Or I can ask from you, Chilufya, is link these people to me. I'll take this proposal personally, because medication is a huge bill, It's a huge bill and a huge drain on the part of the government. We cannot talk of having a stronger Kwacha if we don't replace what is sucking money out of our economy. So this is a huge proposal. Let them come. We're going to support, like we have been supporting others. They've got also tomorrow meeting the Minister of Energy over some Zambian who want to set up the production of electricity using solar panels. So I read through the proposal. It was making a lot of sense. I went to the Ministry of Energy and agreed that we meet tomorrow again at 10 hours with the same technocrats. So we are promoting innovations, and especially Zambians want to get involved in industrializing of our economy. So link them up, or take it, and I'll be updating you whatever we'll be discussing, so that at the end of the day, we solve out what is the problem. As long as we don't identify where much of our money is being sucked off of the economy and how we're going to replace and close the gap, we'll keep on going round and round and round, especially on growing the growth of the economy, job creation, as well as making Zambians a middle-class income country by 2030. We cannot have a middle-class income if we don't have rich indigenous Zambians. For Zambia to become a middle-class country, we need to have Zambians who are middle-class themselves. We cannot have foreigners in the country who are middle-class, and you expect the country to become a middle-class income country now. So I'm taking that proposal, which is fantastic, and we are going to support them with everything they want to. We are, even this time, about the Ministry of SME. I'm sure those are the projects the ministry want to know. We have the Ministry of Technology. Those are the proposals they want to look at. You have the Ministry of Commerce. Those are the projects they want to look at. The Ministry of Health also will be happy to know that. Even the Ministry of Finance, because we're going to cut down on their expenditure on medication. So it's a good proposal. Link them to me. We are going to support them.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Mabeta. For your information, I'm in Zambia in June. And I can easily, because I've seen some of the proposals these guys did, and will definitely come and meet in Lusaka when I come in June. And I'll invite these guys to come from South Africa to come to Zambia, so that we can talk about setting up a pharmaceutical company owned by Zambians and run by Zambians. Mabeta, before I bring in Bakwetu family TV members to ask questions on this issue, there's one more issue on Ministry of Health. If you remember yesterday, there was a letter that went viral relating to Ministry of Health employing nurses or medical staff before the government could start employing, or the government could put an ad in the paper. You remember a week ago, last week, presidential spokesman Anthony Bwalia promised that there was going to be an ad on the 21st of on the 21st of March, which is Monday, and that ad had not yet been put on Daily Mail. But the director of HR in the Ministry of Health started issuing appointments, and this issue was brought up by Tutu Angulube, who was a PF guy, posted it on his Facebook page, and it went viral, start attacking the UPND government, that they are as corrupt as the PF government. But you mentioned that there are some civil servants who are sabotaging the work of the government. What is your comment about that? And can you just tell the viewers what happened to that letter? Are there so many other letters that have been given to people before the government? To me, that smells corruption, because how can somebody start issuing letters when the government hasn't advertised? Over to you, Bababet.
Yeah, so these are the things we are talking about, Chilufya. These are indications to say we have people in the system, civil servants who are working against the government. There are so many examples we can give. There are so many examples. Before judgment is passed in court, you have those who are going to win the judgment already taking advantage of what the ruling which is going to be passed in court. So that just tells you how much there's a link between PF and the civil servant. How did Tutu Ngurube quickly get hold of the letter which was done by an HR person in the Ministry of Health? So obviously we can see who the civil servants is being loyal to. What was the purpose of quickly putting it on social media? Obviously was to embarrass the government. So it was there just there to embarrass the government. So as long as we in the UPND don't become fair to ourselves, we are going to regret over the love which we will keep on trying to give to the people who don't love us at all. These are people who are working tirelessly to bring down the government. Given an opportunity, if they could have guns, they can rise against us and start shooting us down. Because that's sabotage. You know, that's sabotage.
Are you still there, Honorable Mabeta?
I think he's muted. He's there.
You muted Honorable Mabeta. Let me unmute him. Okay, okay, continue. Yes, please.
So every day we are getting evidence of the sabotage which this UPND government is going through in the system. So these are just some of the examples which have come out. We don't know how many letters have been issued. We don't know how many letters are now flying in people's hands, just waiting for this issue to settle down so that they can quickly find on their way on the payroll. They can even post-date the date, you know. The date can be issued, but one thing I want to recommend from the system the government is going to set, there'll be a lot of stages. There'll be a lot of stages which are going to be screened in the recruitment of nurses. So those of the letters, they'll find themselves that those letters will not have any record to back them because the system the government is going to put will start at a lower level, even at the district level. There'll be the panel which is going to be put there will be tight-proof to ensure that there's no one who's going to get recruited through the head. You have to start from the district level. There will be a panel which will be set, and the minister made it very clear to say even members of parliament will be given an opportunity to participate. I don't know to which stage. I don't know whether it's at district level or provincial level or national level, where we are going to ensure that we can also have an eye and observe what is happening. The level of sabotage by Chilufya is so high that, to me today, the biggest opposition we have is the civil servant.
Thank you so much on that, for enlightening us on that, Honorable Mabeta. And I hope our viewers are listening to that. Now, I'm going to allow our Bakwetu family to ask you a question on the issue of a Minister of Health and see if we can move forward. I think we've got another 15-30 minutes, if it's okay with you.
15
minutes, yeah, 15 minutes or so. So I'm going to allow every Bakwetu family member to ask a question. But I'll start with Vampombo, because Vampombo raised an issue the other day of buying medication on Amazon, which put me in trouble because I concurred with him. Honorable Mr. Oscar Mpombo, if you got a question on Ministry of Health issues, you know, to Honorable Mabeta. Over to you, Oscar Mpombo.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Honorable Mr. Mabeta. I'm Don Oscar. I'm calling from Italy. I've been proudly part of the TV Bakwetu, and I, as Chilufya has just said, I sent that provocation last time because here in Europe, Mabeta, I'm here for more than 26 years now in Europe, so I think I know what I'm talking about. So here in Europe, when you talk about the health, actually our Minister of Health, Bamasevo, should be very, very careful there might be any patient or a family of the patient who can sue her for negligence or any other thing. Why do I say this? Because our government, the new government, which we believe very much and I support without fail, they came into power because we were against the behavior of the PF in not procuring enough medicine in the hospitals and in clinics. Here we are, 5 months, 6 months after, and we are talking about, as just Mr. Chilufya has alluded to, the money is much more. The government has issued almost double the money that the PF issued in the Ministry of Health. And yet, medicine is lacking. Now, I said, Chilufya, now, I want now to come to your aid. I want you to, hello? Sorry, somebody was calling me.
Yeah, we can get
I want to come to your aid now, Chilufya. I posted that post, provocative post, because if there is no urgent solution in Zambia, let them apply to Amazon, because Amazon has the possibility to give the Zambian people the medicine. We don't want to act like the PF cadres who thought there was no solution. We are here by Mr. Honorable Mabeta. We are in the diaspora. We have seen things. We have had contacts and possibility to dialogue with the people here in Europe. We know how these things work. I'm in Italy. Mabeta, if you want to know, here the Italians are very good in medicine. Just we go to India to buy cheap medicine, and I second what that accusation. I am not accusing India as a country, but I am accusing the contractors where the Zambian people go and buy the medicine in India. Those people, they have sold Zambian expired drugs. The expired drugs do not come to Zambia. They did not come from Zambia. They came from the places where they went and buy those medicines. And this exercise can never happen in Europe. Mabeta, in Europe, when you have a drug which has to expire in 1 month's time, they don't sell it. They give it free of charge. Please, we are here to give information because we love our country. I don't deserve any compensation. I want to collaborate because we are here. If there is anything which we can contribute to our country is to give the right information. And this is what we are giving. Patrick, now let me defend you now, Patrick, from all the accusation, even from the accusation from my beloved and honored Dr. Elas Munsha, our beloved inspirer of this TV Bakwetu. If you're Amazon to say, if there is no solution, go on Amazon, buy the medicine, they will give you. Because we buy, I want a cell phone. I want a model, a new model cell phone. I go on Amazon. Amazon is going to give me the cell phone. So, Zambia, you don't have medicine. You don't have where to buy the medicine. Go and buy the medicine on Amazon, and Amazon is going to bring you back the medicine in Zambia. Mabeta, I for one, my submission, please.
Thank you so much, Oscar Mpombo. Honorable Mabeta, if you got one or two anything to say about that before I go to the next person for the question. You are in trouble today, I can see.
Yeah, no, that sounds like it's a submission and not a question, because
yeah, that's what I was saying. Any comment on that that submission?
Basically, I think there's a lot of maybe misunderstanding. It's the 3.6 billion allocated to the Ministry of Health. It's not a budget release. That's a plan in the budget. The only money which has been released for the medication, 650 million. That's the only money we should be talking about now. Number two, the challenge we are having, is it where to buy the medication or who to buy and how they're going to buy it? So it's not about India, not about Italy, not about South Africa. It's about who is going to buy. How credible are those people going to buy, and how are they going to buy the medication? Because also looking at to repeat the mistake we had in the past, where we rushed to give orders to people without doing the due diligence, and we end up having the same bad suppliers. And the medicine has already started flowing in the country. As we are speaking now, even when we go in the hospitals, they are stocked at 50%. And the minister gave an assurance to say, as we go into the next 2-3 weeks, you're going to go to see levels going up to 80%. And the other option the government has put, the NEMA insurance, where a patient who's contributing towards NEMA, they can get a prescription, go towards it, walk into any pharmacist and to get the medication which has been recommended by the doctor. So that NEMA facility also should start finding ways and means of utilizing it so that it can support what the government has put in place. So the challenge we have at the moment is not where to buy the medicine from, but who was going to buy the medicine and how are they going to buy, because they have to do a proper due diligence so that you don't repeat the past mistakes.
Thank you so much, Mabeta, on that. And I'm going to go to the top there and ask Bamuelo and Tanisha Mushibwe if she's got any questions for you or comments for you, Honorable Mabeta. Over to you, Bamuelo.
I don't necessarily have a question. I think I probably just have a contribution as well. I feel for I feel for the new Don government, and I totally get what Honorable Mabeta is saying. I think sometimes we look at these issues very emotionally without actually looking at the facts on the ground. The issue that is there is not that there's no medication, like he has indicated. The medication is available or is in the pipeline, but who is supplying it is questionable. And so, unfortunately, what I would probably advise, especially the new Don government, was that it was inadequate to just probably employ Sylvia Masebo as the minister, because there's a big mess in the health fraternity. I think for her, she deserves a deputy or a co-chair or somebody that was going to work with her, because there's too many issues in that ministry. Additionally, I think adding on to that is that it's not that India is a bad place to get your medication from. India is the world's biggest health tourist destination. Why? Because they are quite advanced in health. That's why medication comes from India and not from South Africa or from Italy, like we're saying, because we also need to look at the trains of getting the medication from the locations that you're talking about. And then who is doing the due diligence as well, like Honorable has said, when the medication comes in. If you remember the honeybee issue, we were even taking our medications to Zimbabwe to have it checked. And it sounds very stupid. Why should we be sending medication to Zimbabwe to have it checked when we should have those facilities in Zambia? So we also have a problem ourselves. We're not looking at the problem from our point of view, we're looking at the minister and saying it's a new Dawn government. But this issue started even before the new Dawn government. There was no medication in the hospitals even prior to the elections. So this is just a falling out, and it's now trickling in, and we are now even realizing the depth maybe of what really happened. And so we keep saying, no, it's a new Dawn government. The minister is not doing her job and stuff like that. There's been problems in the medicine supply chain for a long time. I'll give you an example. At one point, they had said they were going to ban codeine. I'm able to buy codeine. I'm able to buy cocodamol from a chemist without a prescription. Okay, so even I think the one that you're talking about is for the premature baby. I'm trying to remember the term for that one, whether it's something along those lines.
Caffeine citrate.
Surfactant.
I think it's got surfactant, something along those lines.
Yeah,
at one point, I remember somebody asking for it in a chemist, and the chemist was actually saying, "Oh, you would have to order it from South Africa. Give us a couple of days." So meaning we are so loose in the way that our medication has been coming into Zambia, and now we're just now facing the reality of the mess we've had for years and years, before us. And to blame the ministry at this point and say, no, it's your fault, and we're actually, I think we're being very neither here nor there. And what we're supposed to just probably admit is that we have tolerated ourselves as the people. We tolerated this rubbish for years and years, and now we're just facing up to the mess that we have made. I submit.
Mabeta, first, before you comment on that, thank you so much, Mwelwa, on that wonderful contribution. Mabeta, it opens another worm here. ZAMLA, which is like an enforcement agency, attached to Ministry of Health, and you are a member of parliament. How come we so loose? Mabeta, I was in South Africa. I lived in South Africa. South Africa just next door here to Zambia. The controls on medication is unbelievable. In Zambia, I visited Zambia at one point. I was feeling a bit bad. I had an infection, throat infection. And obviously I needed an antibiotic. So I was trying to go to the hospital, and then a friend of mine, I don't want to mention his name, well connected, well educated at that time, he told me, don't go to the hospital, let's go to the pharmacy. And I was given that medication on the counter. You cannot be given an antibiotic on the counter in South Africa or anywhere in the world. Even cocodamol, you cannot be given. So, and then Mwelwa mentioned we couldn't even check the medication. We took them to Zimbabwe. Is there something wrong, Mabeta? That's just an additional question, but can you also comment on what Mwelwa said? Thank you, Mabeta.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And all as Zambians, we need to understand to say we are coming from a regime which benefited from a lack of system, the regime which benefited from confusion. This is a regime which benefited from, I can say, collapse of the system, So as Mwelwa said, we are now being exposed how confused, how disorganized we are as a country. Because, in politics, unfortunately, there's no handover. There's no handover. It's job on training. You have to learn how to do things on the way. No one's going to guide you what to do. Because in politics, it's all about working towards a failure. They all want to see you fail. So no one's going to tell you to say, this is how the system was working. Or maybe this is how the system failed to work. So as UPND, we have more work to understand and identify the weakness of the system. And that's going to expose us a lot because it's more of job on training. There are a lot of loopholes. And when it comes to control of medicine, I'm sure Zamra cannot be in every chemistry. Where there's confusion, obviously, there's someone willing to break the law and there's someone willing to accept the breaking of the law. If you have set up a chemist, you haven't sold anything the whole day, and someone walks in with the 10 kwacha, 20 kwacha and buy the medication, why am I going to say no? So on the enforcement part, it has to come then to say, I cannot take a medication without the recommendation of the doctor. That's where it should start from. But as long as I'm willing to work in a chemist, that person who set up a chemist, the sole purpose is to sell and make money. So as long as I got the money, the interest is in my money and not in my health. So they'll get my money. So not until you reach a level where citizens will say, I cannot buy medication without seeing the doctor first. It's not possible to eradicate that. No government to be able to reinforce. These are behaviors and these are morals that citizens we need to reach and say they can't do this without the recommendation of a doctor.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mabeta. Now I move on to Dr. Barbara Chanda. Dr. Barbara Chanda, any questions, comments on the issues happening at Ministry of Health? Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you for everybody's contribution. I just wanted to make some clarifications and make a comment. I think we've mixed up two different things. There's medication for the hospital that is needed for acute conditions and emergency treatments for somebody who is hospitalized in a hospital or is going to a hospital as a day case patient where they're not sleeping in the hospital. They see a consultant or a medical personnel and go back home. That's a day case. Overnight stay is where they spend the night in the hospital and they're treated. That's the medication we are referring to when we're talking about the hospitals. The other part is medication that you can buy off the counter, that is from a clinic or from the pharmacy. These two systems are different and they've got different regulations. The medication that is being used in the hospital is directly being prescribed by a medical personnel with their expertise. And then the one in the chemist, some of it is off the counter that doesn't need any regulation. Some of it is medication that needs regulation. And those things are supposed to have laws. Mabeta MP has mentioned about citizens having morality. No citizens on earth have morality. That's why when it comes to medicine, it has to be a stringent laws, because when you're in a lot of pain, even medical professionals ourselves, when you're in a lot of pain, it is the easiest option would be for you to go to the painkiller that is stronger than you'd need, or something that would act quickly. So if morphine was available, the person would rather buy morphine than buy paracetamol. So there are levels. That's why there's laws are in place to stop the sale of these things. Now, with the hospitals in Zambia, as somebody who's worked in a Zambian hospital, there's so much bureaucracy, it's unbelievable. So what Mabeta is saying, because he's never worked in a government hospital, to order a medication, I remember when I worked at Kitwe Central, there's a time there was no medication for premature babies at the hospital. I had to go and quarrel with the accountant in the hospital to just prescribe some medicine, but on the same table, he was signing a check for the director to go for some meeting in Lusaka because they needed some fuel. That's the bureaucracy that is in government institutions. That's why I said, for these things to change, the new government has to be radical. We can't keep on saying that the civil servants are not working with the government. We can't keep singing that song. We have to be radical. Why? Because if you're cooking, for example, if you're cooking a pot of nshima for 1,000 people and you just buy one pot, that nshima will not be cooked properly. But if you buy maybe 100 pots so that each section cooks their own nshima, they are going to eat better nshima. That's how they have to diversify and make sure that every system is independent so that they can manage themselves. And every director can say, this hospital, this is what we need and this is what we can do. With the civil service in particular, today the MPs like Mabeta and them, if they wanted the civil servants to change, they can make it like South Korea. South Korea, the economies that are doing well, they've got the most fantastic civil servants that are loyal because they do exams. They do exams, and if the exams are so difficult, it's actually in South Korea to say you are a civil servant, you're part of the elite. People know that, wow, it's a clever person. They actually passed the exams. That's what should happen in Zambia in the long run. But in the immediate, rules have to be there. The head of department cannot just be, you can't be, if somebody comes into my house, paper, sitting room, I tell them, oh, don't do it. Tomorrow they do it, I'm just watching. By the time they do it the third time, it's me who's got a problem. Because why would you allow somebody in your house to destroy your house and they're just watching and saying, oh, you know what I mean? No. You have to put a stop to it. Same with the civil servants. There's no way we can just be saying, oh, they're jeopardizing the new government. They said, no. If somebody has found wanting, they should be sacked. Then Ululu said, there are brothers. You're a brother if you're contributing to the economy. You're a brother if you're doing well for the betterment of all of us. All of us Zambians are very strong about our Zambianity, or is it Zambianness? Zambians are very intelligent people. They are very clever people. Ask the same Zambians, if in 2 days in the UK, you follow the rules because there's a system. There are still pharmacies that are Zambian owned in Zambia. In fact, my son went to have his hair cut, and then the barber said, oh, you need to buy Funbact and blah, blah, blah. He ordered the Funbact on Amazon. It's a Zambian company that makes that Funbact. It comes in a blue tube. It comes from Zambia. It's sold here in the UK. You can find it on Amazon. So the pharmacies are there that produce things that are Zambian made. We have all those companies. It's because we don't value ourselves. The minute we start valuing ourselves, and that's why I was very happy when the president went and picked the kids from, Ukraine, because that's the value of us as citizens. The minute we start respecting ourselves, the minute we become important and have value, everything will have value. Every Zambian is important. Every Zambian is clever. Even like what Wampombo was saying, that whatever you see in Italy, whatever you see in England, it's the same thing in Zambia. Zambia is not a village where you think there's no pharmacy, people don't know how to order. The doctors that work in Zambia are highly qualified. They've worked in all these hospitals that you've seen in Italy, in England, in America. It's not like they're just nobodies. They know these things. Even the pharmacists, they know these things. It's just that there's no system. And to have that system, the person in charge, the Minister of Health, has to be radical. I submit before I go on forever.
Thank you, Barbara. That talk time, I know it. And I was wondering how far it was going to go. Thank you so much. But Mabeta, before you come in, Barbara said something very important. There's so many educated Zambians, doctors all over the world. As I mentioned, so many, I couldn't believe it, that a lot of pharmaceutical companies in South Africa are run by Zambians. But you know that the PF government couldn't do that because Tabariemo. Because by buying medication from India, they can easily get medication at a cheaper price, bribe India, but not buying it from Zambians who are producing in Zambia. Over to you, Mabeta, on what Barbara said. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, unfortunately, Chilufya, I'm only remaining with 45 minutes to now attend to the calls that haven't been picked the whole day.
We won't be long. We've got only two, 3 people to ask, and I'll restrict them to 2 minutes.
Yeah, but I mean, the questions are taking over 7 minutes, and there are people waiting for me because I asked them to hang on before they go to
I'm so sorry. We'll be quick. You can hear that fellow Bakwetu family. We're gonna be quick. Okay,
there are people waiting for me. If I don't call them, they'll say the MP has even stopped calling us back. I've got a chain of missed calls.
Let's just have 5-6 minutes so that everybody can ask a question, and then you can.
No, and then maybe 3 minutes because I also need to rest my distance at 6 hours.
Okay. Let me ask everybody to ask a question or make a comment, and then you can close.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you so much, Lankwilimba. Any quick question or comment, please. Minister of Health.
Well, let me just make a quick comment since the MP is rushing. I just wanted to say that well, if the suppliers are coming in now, that's good news. But I think the point is that this is rather late. We knew before we came into government that there are no medicines in hospitals, and taking 6 months to start having a trickle of these medicines is too late. I think I agree with what Dr. Barbara. The approach should have been radical enough so that by now we should have had these supplies readily in hospitals. And the other comment is on the Zambians that want to set up pharmaceutical industry in Zambia. I think this is a welcome move, and I would like to encourage Honorable Mabeta to really push this point with his colleagues and perhaps with the systems in Zambia. There's no reason why we should be talking about cartels in Zambia also supplying medicines when we have Zambia as well the capacity, to produce medicines within our country. And this is the way we are going to empower Zambians. So please, Honorable Mabeta, this is really a good thing that you are pushing, and it should be done in every area, not just in health. Thank you so much.
That was powerful, Bakwetu. Mabeta, you come in and close in. Let me just allow everybody to talk quickly. That was powerful, Bakwetu, and we'll allow Mabeta to comment before he closes. The cartels, they are really causing problems because it's corruption. That's what they've been doing in the last 10 years. And what Barbara said, there needs to be a radical change, a whip. Over to you, Wumkelebai.
Good evening, Womaveta. I won't waste much of your time. Much has been said. We just want you people in the parliament to make sure that you pass the good laws and keep on making the right decisions for the country. And we would want the Minister of Health to step up, pull up their socks, and please, Madam, do not feel shy, but kick those people who are incompetent, who are trying to jeopardize or rather bring the name of the institution in jeopardy, and change. Let's just change the narrative and let's do something. Otherwise, we're going to lose so many lives and it will be too late because we can never take our lives, those people that will be lost, back. It will be more costly. So it is imperative that we, as the new dawn, we don't want to dwell in the mistakes that the previous regime made. We want the right things, and we are happy that already within a week or two, you have already found the solution, and the medicine, 50% of the medication is back in the hospitals. Thank you so much. I submit.
Thank you so much for Mukelebai. And I was looking, there was another person there, but I've lost somebody. Honorable Mabeta, can you make your closing remarks and, if possible, comment on some of the comments our Bakwetu family have made?
Yes. Yeah, maybe just a clarification I want to make is that the PF wasn't spending money on the medication. The medication which used to come was being gotten without being paid for, okay? So when we came into government, September, October, November, December, we are using a budget which was already approved, and there was no allocation for medication. So the period we should be reviewing is the period between January, February, and March, because that's when the UPND has started allocating money available for the procurement of goods and services. So when we're talking of 6-7 months, or we were also including the 4 months when there was no money available to be spent on the medications. So what we've done already in the 3 months, I think it's enough, because when the government has increased the allocation to the hospitals to make cash available for hospitals, to quickly attend to emergencies medications. Only that maybe hospitals are not willing to allocate the extra funds toward the medication. Again, there's already deliveries in the, deliveries which has 50% are moving in the system. So we're looking at the 3 months of the UPND having a budget, money available to spend. If you wanted, you could have taken the same system, PF of getting things on credit and pay for them later. But that's what always makes the cost of goods and services which are being bought inflated. You know, when you buy something on credit, you pay higher than someone who's buying cash. So the only way going to reduce the cost of procuring of the service is by making the cash available. But that also has given more pressure and opportunity to the vouchers, those who want to make quick money, because they're very assured to say the money is available. So obviously, the Ministry of Health has attracted a lot of pressure because there's money now, which everyone can, money which is available to be spent. So Zambians need to be a little bit patient, because if you're going to put pressure on the Ministry of Health, where there's cash is available, will end up being dribbled by the same old crooks who milk so much money out of the Zambian people. So I know it has been a very difficult 7 months. Obviously, the first 4 months were impossible to spend because there was literally no money to spend. The budget was already approved. Then the increase in the budget is a 12-month period, whether it's CDF, whatever has been approved in the 2022 budget, it's a 12-month budget. So don't expect the whole budget to be spent within the first 3 months. We still have another 9 months to raise the fund. Obviously, taxes are not collected once per year. They're collected daily, weekly, monthly, others quarterly, and others are collected annually. So don't expect the whole allocated amount to be collected within the first, I can say 2 months, because March is not yet done. So we only have 2 months to collect tax and spend the money. So there's only so much we can do in the limited space we've had. So let's start giving real review. Maybe when it starts getting into June, we say in the last 6 months we should have done 50% of the budget. Obviously, 50% of the things we want to see. We're only 2 months old in this year. 2 months. The only months the European government has managed to raise some funds and allocate them for expenditure. Otherwise, well, I understand the pressure we have as Zambians, because with this pain we've been going through started a long time. So I've suffered for a long time that we are impatient now, because each day we go through reminds us of the pain we've been having. Let's start reviewing UPND. 6 months, especially June, when the debt is restructured, we have enough money to spend. There's also what we call the budget. You know, there will be an extra allocation to the spending pattern. It hasn't been a rough 7 months. It won't be an easy 10 months, but I can assure you, as we are going into June, July, August, we're going to see a lot of changes. To those civil servants who are working at the government, there is no mercy for you, because you are killing the Zambians. Those are the people who give us the mandate to work for them. You're not fighting us, you're fighting the intelligence of the Zambians who gave us an opportunity to work for them. Otherwise, I thank you. I hope to see you next week. May God bless you all.
Thank you, Honorable Mabeta, for coming to talk to us whenever we need you. We really thank you for that. And to my Bakwetu family members, Dr. Barbara Chanda, Mwelwantanisha Mushibwe, Mr. Nkwilimba, Abo Mukelebai, Mr. Oscar Mpombo, thank you so much for coming and support me. To our viewers, we thank you so much for your viewership. And we're now coming to an end of this program. One thing I got out of this discussion is that we need radical changes. It's now or never. Thank you so much, our viewers. May God bless our beloved mother Zambia. Good night and bye for now.